Right now, you're being robbed. Right now. Of not your money, but something way more valuable. Your focus, your discipline, and your life. If there's ever been a moment in your life where you have felt stuck, unmotivated, or feel like you have no purpose, this is most likely the reason. And if there's ever a video that you know that you need to watch, this is the video for you. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the importance of the 80 and 20% rule, the importance of focusing on real dopamine over cheap dopamine, and exactly how, if you don't listen to this video, you will stay like this person in the middle who is most likely not who you want to be right now because they don't look very happy. But other than that, no more time wasting, let's get straight into today's video. Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and I want to thank you guys for clicking onto this video because through this video, you'll be able to change your life. And the reason why I say this is because after being on live, I've seen that the majority of people, or a lot of people in this world, are in this exact same issue. They are being overstimulated by cheap dopamine and they are neglecting real dopamine. So firstly, to touch upon, I'm going to speak about the 80 and 20% rule, which is a rule that most people most likely know about, but it is saying you need to be doing good things 80% of the time and you can do bad things 20% of the time. But if any of you have studied maths, you most likely know what this little thing I have put right here is. What it means is that you are either greater than or less than the something which is either in front of it or behind it. Which is why I've put, currently, you are spending more time on cheap dopamine and you're spending less time on real dopamine. And realistically, if I was to put this into perspective for the wider population, it is most likely a 30% to a 70%. And the issue with this is that too many people, and the majority of people, are leaning towards cheap dopamine within their life. So what is cheap dopamine? If you haven't been looking at the screen this whole time, I hope that you can come look at it right now. If you're listening, then I will say exactly what it is. Cheap dopamine, but these are just some of them. It is not all of them, but it is some of them, are things such as series and television. I'm not against these things, all because I'm saying they are cheap dopamine. It doesn't mean I am against them, but I am just saying what they are for what they are. Series and TV shows, alcohol, junk food, drugs, social media, and fapping. And other example could be gambling or some other sorts of cheap dopamine. Now, what is the issue with these things? There isn't necessarily an issue with these things because they are part of our day-to-day life. Like realistically, if you don't use social media, you wouldn't even be watching this video right now. Social media is what we used to be. A lot of my creativity comes from social media. So no, social media is not a 100% bad thing. Things such as alcohol. Let's say you go out. I'm not saying that I'm advocating for being an alcoholic, no, or for you to be getting drunk 24/7, no. But if you went out on an event, or you went out on a date, or you went out for a meal, and you sat there and drank some red wine, or you sat there and drank something alcoholic, I'm not going to say there's an issue with that. It depends on how much you do it, which is why I'm going to once again focus on the 70% issue. Additionally, something like drugs, okay, we're going to completely, this is the one thing which I'll say, just don't do no matter what. Don't be abusing drugs at all, no matter what. Junk food, I can once again say, it is fine if you are minimizing it by 20%. However, the number one issue, once again, with society is that this side, the cheap dopamine side, is not being kept within 20%. It is actually most likely 70%. If you look at the majority of people, the majority of their life stems around these things. Majority of people's issues is literally, all they do is go to work and then abuse cheap dopamine. What this does for you, it one, destroys your mindset. And I don't think I spoke about this in the intro, but I'm going to touch upon exactly why this destroys your mindset. If firstly, the only thing in your life that you really do is you eat junk food, you drink, and you watch Netflix series. And you go on social media. So I'm not going to say you take drugs or you fap. I'm going to say you do 1, 2, 3, 4. The issue with that is the majority of your world perspective is going to be stemming from Netflix series and television and social media. And then additionally, if you aren't eating a good diet, you can lead to things such as an unhealthy gut. You could be messing up your insulin levels. There are so many sorts of things that could be destroying you. And if you're drinking, that also adds to a bad liver and adds to other these health issues that come from having a bad diet. So now you have a bad diet and your whole entire worldview and life experience is coming from series and TV and social media. Now, you don't know anything about society. You don't know the way society works. And at that point in time, sadly, you are going to be a societal reject. And the reason why, it's not that people are looking at you and saying they don't want to be around you per se, but you're not going to know how to be just regular in certain societal and regular situations. You are so used to being overstimulated by cheap dopamine which social media breeds, and you are so used to watching drama 24/7 on Netflix or watching TV, that when it comes to you actually being in a regular situation with people, you don't know what it's like because you avoid real dopamine. You're not actually living in real situations. So this is the issue. I'm not heavily against series. I'm not heavily against okay, I'm for alcohol and junk food, but social media, fapping is a no-go as well. These are sorts of things where it's just no-goes. And the reason why I say it's a no-go for drugs and it's a no-go for fapping, these two are a lot more, I would say fapping out of all of this is the worst one because it also links to lust as well, which is a very, very dangerous thing. Especially man or woman, it's very, very bad for you. If you're still a man, I'm going to say it's even worse for you. And the reason why I said that is because if right now lust is your number one battle, it is expected lust is a very, very bad battle. But if it is a battle which you are literally losing to the point where you are now doing things such as fapping or having sex relentlessly, it is going to take you off trajectory for whatever goal you may have. So, which is why I say it is a very, very, very dangerous cheap dopamine to be leaning towards. Additionally to drugs, it can put you in a trance and a state which you can probably never bounce back from, and you'll be very, very addicted. Alcohol is then, I would say, the third worst one. And then you can throw the other three wherever you want to go. Maybe junk food, then series, and no social media. Or maybe you want to flip these two, whatever. But either way, it doesn't take away from the point. The point is that you don't want to be like the majority of people who are stimulated by 70% of cheap dopamine. And the reason why is because, as I was speaking about it earlier, it is one of the worst ways to live because you're not, as much of these things seem like they're good for you, or let's say they seem fun, because the number one term nowadays is you only live once. So why are you going to stop doing any of these things and miss out on these things? You might as well do it. The issue is you only live once, and that is exactly the truth. So all of the negative side effects of all these sorts of things, they don't just go away unless you do the work to make them go away. They stay with you. If you are addicted to fapping, it doesn't just go away randomly one day. No, it stays with you forever until you say, I'm going to do the work to push out my life. If you're an alcoholic, you don't just one day stop being an alcoholic. One day you make the conscious decision to say, I'm not going to be alcoholic, and then you do the work to stop being an alcoholic. That's how these things work. But the majority of people, once again, are being overstimulated and staying towards doing this 70% of the time. So now I want to touch back upon the 80 and 20% rule. So I am not heavily against doing any of these things, like heavily. Because if you have 80% of the time you're doing the correct thing, you do these things 20% of the time, it's not horrible, which is basically the 80 and 20% rule. The 80 to 20% rule basically means that 80% of the time you want to be doing things that will positively help you and benefit you in your life, and 20% of the time you want to be doing the bad things. We know that they're bad things, so realistically you don't want to do them, but we are not robots. If you ever step into those things, it's just make sure you don't do them over 20% of the time. And I said the reason why this person is like this is because even though it is 20% here, realistically you want to be living like this. Not like where it is 80% is greater than what you're doing in terms of real dopamine. A lot of people are living like this. Well, you want it to be like this, where it is 80% of the time is smaller and 20% of the time is greater in terms of cheap dopamine. So 20% is greater than what you actually do. You want it to be underneath 20%. You want it to be around 10%. You are indulging in this cheap dopamine, and 90% of the time you are indulging in real dopamine. And the reason why, once again, is because these things will only benefit you. These things will only allow you to have greater longevity. This is also one thing I want to touch upon, which is this is the secret to longevity. If 30% of the time, 30% of the time, you are doing real dopamine and 70% of the time you're doing cheap dopamine, this is what you will look like. However, if 90% of the time you are doing real dopamine stuff and 10% of the time you are doing cheap dopamine stuff, you will not look like that. And the reason is why is, firstly, you are having new experiences. New experiences will genuinely just change your life. Firstly, by the word new, because experiences you've never experienced before. So once again, change your life. But the reason why new experiences will develop you differently is because when you're going and doing things that you've never done before, firstly, it is unlocking things inside of your brain. It is destroying limiting beliefs. The fact that I started to go to the gym when I was younger, which was a new experience to me, I was like, okay, there's certain things that I can most likely not do. But I'm saying those things before I've even got into the gym. Even something as dumb as For example, I don't want to get too big. That's such a stupid term, but a lot of people say that. They don't want to get too big. It's their limiting belief. I don't want to go gym because I don't want to get too big. When you get yourself into the gym, instantly you understand you can't get too big. Even if you try, like I've been trying to get too big for how many years now? I am not too big. Far from it. There are people who literally devote their whole lives to getting too big, and those people still don't even get too big. I forgot what I was touching upon now. New experiences and the importance of new experiences. So it destroys limiting beliefs. If there's certain things that you believe you can't do, when you go ahead and actually try them and see that you can do it, it will instantly reframe your whole entire mind to say, okay then, I couldn't, let's say for example, I couldn't bench press 100 kg, but now I believe I can do that. Okay, let me take that same mindset into, for example, starting a business. Before this year, I didn't think I could start a business. Now 2025 is coming, let me start a business. Exactly like that. It would translate that same framework and mindset from whatever experience that was new to you that you tried, and now you can actually spread it around into another sector of your life and now start something even more new and something that can benefit you further than something smaller like, I don't know, another small new experience. Additionally, good sleep. If every single day you are going to bed around 10 to 11 and you wake up around 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, you're waking up early, that will drastically change your life. I don't think people actually understand the importance of sleep. Sleep is one of the most crucial things. You guys most likely will never seen it before because it was an old video, but I made a tier list of the most important things when it comes to going to the gym. And at number one, I put sleep. And the reason why is because you can have the world's best, most scientifically backed workout routine. You can have the best pinpointed diet inside of your house. You can have all of the pre-workout you would ever need, all of the creatine you would ever need. You can be drinking all the water in the world to make sure you're as hydrated as possible. But if you do not get enough sleep, no matter what, you will never, ever put on enough gains to the point that would reflect the other habits which you have in your life. Why? Because firstly, if you are too tired, have you ever noticed that when you oversleep or you have poor sleep, you aren't that hungry? Because that's one of the side effects of not getting enough sleep. Secondly, you have not have enough energy levels that when you go to the gym, you will even feel like training. So even if you have the best workout routine, if you're too tired, just not going to train. So sleep is very, very, very important. And once again, to swing it back to longevity, it is one of those most crucial things that breeds longevity. If you want to go far and go really, really far for a very long time in your life and keep relentlessly doing the same things and breeding consistency within your life, you need to be on a good sleeping pattern. Additionally, you need to rest. It's something that I'm actually trying more recently now. It's advice that I saw from Charlie Morgan, and it is having 1 hour where you literally do nothing. And one thing that I noticed in my life about last month or about 2 months ago, I believe it must have been last month or earlier this month, I was very, very overstimulated. And not just by me sitting there on social media, doom scrolling, all that sorts of things, but I was focusing on too many sectors of my life. I was trying to improve fitness, whilst I'm trying to improve my business, whilst I'm trying to create content, whilst I'm trying to work, all these sorts of things. So at a point in time in my life, my brain was just overstimulated. And then I said, okay, I saw the Charlie Morgan video, and he said one thing that really helped him was that he doesn't really listen to music anymore. I don't think it was the advice of don't listen to music anymore, but I just think he said he's going to reduce as much chaos in his life. So what I've done is since then, I stopped listening to music. I only listen to music when I go live. But other than that, I don't walk with music in my ears. I've stopped all these sorts of things. Additionally, I take out moments in my day to sit there and do nothing. And I don't mean nothing as in I'm sitting there humming or I'm sitting there thinking about something called meditating, trying to recenter my thoughts. No, I am doing literally nothing. I'm just sitting there focused on nothing. I'm just looking up, just gazing and doing literally nothing to bring my mind and bring my focus back to zero, or just take away any thought that my mind currently had. That is very, very important, because it means that when I get to that point where I'm like, I can't really do things anymore, or what's the other word, burnt out, I can avoid it instantly because I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out now. Okay, let me just go sit down and do nothing. And then I come back like 30 minutes to an hour later and I'm suddenly re-energized again, which is one of the benefits of resting. And I come back and actually keep going and I can perform. And then I rest, then I go to sleep, go again the next day, do the work again, rest, and then continue and repeat. That is what breeds consistency and longevity. Additionally, working on your goals. I'm just going to speed run these things now, but working on your goals, exercise, and sunshine / going, spending time outside. These are things that would genuinely benefit you, which will keep you away from being like this person. Because this person most likely spend the majority of their time indoors, and not even indoors working, but just indoors overthinking about their own life. And these are the sorts of things that cheap dopamine have you doing. If you recognize one thing, apart from good sleep and resting, the majority of these things are actually spent time outside or around people, which is very, very important. Real dopamine, you want to be around people, you want to be outside as much as possible. Because when you are inside, or when you are in an environment which breeds these negative habits, these cheap dopamine, such as eating junk food or drinking or scrolling on social media or watching TV and series and doing drugs and fapping, it's most likely things that you're going to do in the comfort of your house or do it in the comfort of your bedroom. You're not fapping in the middle of the park. You are not fapping at work. I hope so, by the way. You're not fapping in the middle of the gym. You're doing that when you're by yourself at 3 a.m. because you're not getting good sleep. You're by yourself at 3 a.m. underneath your blanket doing madnesses. You are not scrolling social media when you go out with 5 of your friends and you guys go out to go eat. You're not sitting there scrolling social media. You guys are going to be having conversations going back and forward. You're not doing drugs, once again, I hope, if you are at work or if you are working on your goals at a cafe. You're not doing drugs there. You're not going to sit down and watch Netflix series for... When I say what Netflix series, it's not like... I'm not talking about, okay, watching one episode here and there. I'm talking about like 6 hours of just straight binge watching. And that's, once again, comes to the 80 and 20% rule. Yesterday, to be transparent to you guys, was it yesterday, 2 days ago? 2 days ago, my sister and brother told me to watch a series. It was Supercell. I sat there and watched the whole entire thing for the day. The only reason why I can allow myself an escape to go do that is because 80 to 90% of the time, I'm just doing hard work. Majority of the time, I'm working at my job, then I come and create content, then I come and focus on my school communities. That's the majority of my time, and I'm training all these other sorts of things. So when I'm like, okay then, I want to take, I don't know, the next 6 hours to just do nothing and just chill, bang, I do that. And then what, 2 days later, or the day later as well, because this is actually, I made this presentation yesterday, and I have another video behind on the back of it, I snap back into it. I might spend half of a day doing literally nothing, bed rotting or just rotting up away, like doing all this cheap dopamine stuff, then I'm back at it 80 to 90% of the time. Exactly how it makes sense. That's how you can actually be doing it. So when you are outside doing and experiencing real dopamine for the majority of your time, it will keep you away from feeling like this because you are not indulging in cheap dopamine. You are resetting your dopamine receptors. You are not overstimulated by all these sorts of things. It will just genuinely change your life. So to link back to the title, which is the way you are consuming is ruining your life. Because you are consuming and over consuming cheap dopamine, it is causing you to feel like this, and your mindset, your emotions, your hormones, all these sorts of things which are currently going on and being disrupted in your life, it is because you are overstimulated like the majority of the population who are living in the 70% and 30% rule, which is not what you want to be doing. You want to be doing an 80 plus and a 20 minus lifestyle. You want to be doing real dopamine, good things, 80 to 100% of the time. Okay, 100% is, well, human, come on. But 80 to 99% of the time, and experiencing cheap dopamine 20 to 1% of the time. And just like that, you'll go from this person to this person. You'll be happy and smiley. You'll be living life, chasing after your purpose, experiencing new things, working on your goals, exercising frequently, getting good sleep, resting throughout your day, and enjoying the sunshine and going outdoors. That's what comes from living a life of chasing after real dopamine, rather than always being overstimulated by cheap dopamine. That is exactly what it takes. It takes for you to say, okay then, enough is enough. I'm tired of the cheap dopamine. I am now going to be focusing on the real dopamine. The real things which will genuinely change my life and make my life 15 to 10 times better. Or 10 times to 15 times better. Other than that, hopefully this was some lovely, lovely advice for you guys. And I hope you actually listen to this video and genuinely implement it into your life, because it will actually change your life for the better. Other than that, thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, all of my links are inside the description. If you want to join my free school community, it's there. And if you want to join my paid school community, it's also there.